start with Joe for questions for Coach Swan.
Obviously, you've been a defensive coordinator before, you know how to do the job, but I'd be curious what you kind of learned from Morgan and what you've kind of taken from watching him as defensive coordinator for so many years here.
That's a good question. Yeah, he's one of the best in the country to do it, and there was a lot to learn from him. Work ethic is probably one of them, and just his meticulous way about handling his day-to-day business. He spent an enormous amount of time studying film. There wasn't a stone that was left unturned when it come to his study habits and things of that nature. So that's probably one of the biggest things is just, having an answer for everything. Being able to problem solve different things offenses are going to throw at you, and being able to adapt and adjust and playing that kind of mind game with the offensive coordinator. They're, from an offensive standpoint, they're looking at you and trying to expose your weaknesses and get number counts and things of that nature. And so always being able to adjust and adapt, and even be able to do it on the run within the game, within the 60 minutes, and it's kind of that chess match as you talk. So yeah, that's a lot of what I learned from him.
You mentioned that chess match. There's a uniqueness with Morgan's defenses that sometimes that is coming in last second, last minute. How does that compare to other defenses you've been involved in? You've been the coordinator for another school, and what is the challenge of probably the expectation that kind of continue?
Yeah, I think, the uniqueness of that is awesome. The ability to adapt and adjust on the move, and that can throw offenses off. But at the same time, knowing your personnel and how your defense works, giving them consistency is really big. I think that players can really know and understand what they're trying to get done and execute at a very high level. Sometimes when you're throwing them stuff like that last second, the ability to execute a high level, may be lacking a little bit, and you kind of go into hey, I'm going to try to trick the offense or trick the quarterback or trick the offensive coordinator, and you end up tricking yourself. And so it's a fine line. It's a catch-22, and so you just, as a coordinator, you got to have the mindset of, okay, this is what we do really well, and let's go out there and make sure that we have answers for everything that the offense does to it. Okay, so yeah, as a defensive coordinator, you want to have answers for everything. So that's kind of the biggest thing.
A lot of teams can only go as far as their on-the-field leadership can take them. Who are your leaders on this defense right now, and what are your expectations of them?
Yeah, we got great leadership. That's one thing then, transpiring from year to year that, you expect kids to do. That's one thing as us as coaches are taking an enormous amount of time is teaching and coaching them how to be great leaders, and, working them into it, forcing them to build that kind of culture within the defense. We've seen some great leadership, taking place from a number of guys on our defense, and we voted for a leadership council, and it's been posted to guys there. But one thing that I stress to the defensive guys is just because your peer, your buddy, or whatever didn't vote, or your name was not called when it comes to leadership, does not mean that you're not a leader. We've got a lot of players on this defense that played an enormous amount of reps that didn't stand up when the leadership council was called, right? And I need to hear voices from everybody, right? And that's one thing that we try to really stress defensively. It's not a one-man job. It's not a three-person job. It's it's us as an entire defense. We're going to put you in coaches as stressful situations, and we need to see the leadership really start to grow and build each other up, and hear that positive influence amongst the kids, and have that kind of just permeate throughout our defense.
Coach, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on Cyrus Polu going into his second year, and what are some of the early expectations for him through the offseason?
He's doing a really good job. He's in a dogfight, very competitive room with a lot of really good players, and he knows that. I will say that he is putting himself in a very good position to be successful. I mean, he knows he's got an opportunity to compete for a job, and he's taken full advantage of it for sure.
Colton, you've been here a long time, not to make you feel old, but you've been here a long time. You've seen Morgan as defensive coordinator. I'm curious, is there any differences that you've seen from him as head coach that he's either adapted to, or is it just the same guy Morgan is?
man, to say I've been here for a long time, it feels like yesterday I just got here. That's crazy to hear that. But yeah, he's a lot of the same personality, the same mindset, those types of things. Obviously, he's looking at everything from a 30,000-foot perspective and trying to oversee, a bunch of different facets. But a lot of the same type of personality, a lot of the same type of decision making, those types of things. A lot of energy, a lot of juice. I mean, he loves to tease and have fun, but at the same time, he loves to be competitive, and he loves, that side of things. So a lot of the same stuff you can see from a defensive standpoint, obviously carry over into, his head coaching mentality. So it's a lot of carryover.
Well, many people saw you as kind of the natural fit to move into that DC role. I want you to kind of brag about yourself a little bit. What do you feel like makes you the right person to be the defensive coordinator, and kind of what's your philosophy, strategy to kind of be successful in that role?
It's hard to. I want to always try to be humble. So I think a lot of the attributes with even how I was raised and brought up. I like to be very meticulous. I like to be on top of everything that I do and have answers for it. Being a linebacker and a linebacker coach, you got to be involved in the run game. You got to be involved in the pass game, so you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the entire field. And so it's just been something that I've set forth for myself as goals to see myself work into that role. And luckily and thankfully, Coach Scally saw the same in me. And so I'm excited for this opportunity.
Kind of building off that one, especially with the run defense, you guys kind of revamped that defensive tackle room this offseason. As also the linebackers coach, how have you seen, maybe progress happen with the big guys up front that can make it easier for your guys in your room? Yeah,
that's been a position group that needs to reestablish its identity for sure. And thus far, they're doing so. It's a great group. The work ethic is through the roof. We got a bunch of guys in there that are competing for starting spots and that, are trying to get on the field. And we're seeing that. Obviously, as you mentioned, the better D-tackle play, the better it is for our linebackers. I mean, in a roundabout way, a linebacker is a defensive tackle just from an off-ball position, right? And so the more dominant and occupying they are up front, the better we are. And it's been good. The D-tackle's been doing a very nice job, and it will continue to do that. They're growing every day. The one thing that you do see from them is really good technique. It's a very technical spot to play, and you see a lot of really good effort by them. So really happy and for that position group.
Building on top of those two questions.
Man, we're going right up this ladder. Here we go.
You're going from a position coach where you're focused on your specific group at linebacker to now defensive coordinator, where you have to have a much wider view of, and perspective of things. How has that process been adjusting to that for you?
Man, that has been something where I've had to really kind of train myself in the last little bit to kind of expand my vision a little bit. As a position coach, you're worried about, 10 guys. You're working about 3 guys on the field, 2 guys on the field. You're handling academics for a certain part of the defense and not the whole entire defense. You're, just seeing things from ground level, not that 30,000 view that we talked about with Coach Scally. And so it's very interesting to kind of have that perspective. It's something that you definitely have to train to it, because you are sitting there thinking, okay, what is this corner doing, and what's that nickel doing, and what that safety doing? You're like, oh, by the way, your linebacker missed his gap, or whatever. And so you've got to have you got to be able to train your eyes to look where they're supposed to look at the correct time, or see what you're supposed to see at the correct time. And so it's tough, but with reps and training and things like that, film study, it's coming along.
All right, that'll wrap us up.
Cool.